Welcome to the SVG-TV news for Friday, December 4th. I am Khalil Kato with the details. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves today called on the United Nations Security Council to end all unilateral sanctions imposed on Africa. The Prime Minister was making a statement to the Council's virtual debate on the strategic partnership between the UN and the African Union as envisaged by the Chapter 8 of the United Nations Charter. PM Gonsalves said that in order for Africa to overcome challenges currently being faced, this has to be done.
We echo the calls of the African Union for an end to all unilateral economic sanctions imposed on African countries so as to assist in the creation of conditions conducive to economic growth, recovery, and stability. The immense challenges of today cannot be solved through incrementalism or an outmoded zero-sum game of militarism. Instead, we need principled and pragmatic multilateral solutions.
The Prime Minister added that priority must be given by the UN Security Council to consult with the African Union on peacemaking missions.
Advice of the African Union should be sought out systematically and as a matter of priority ahead of all mandate renewals and mission transitions for peace operations on the African continent. The Security Council should also consult with the African Union regularly on the implementation of mandated priority tasks for peace missions in those areas such as security sector reform and disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration, where the African Union has a wealth of expertise and provides operational guidance.
Further, the Prime Minister has asked that the UN improves on its cooperation with African nations and get them more involved to ensure that peace and security are upheld.
Involved role in peace operations in a number of contexts, such as AMISOM and UNAMID. And to this end, our delegation fully supports the use of United Nations assessed contributions for African Union-led peace operations. We also encourage both councils to communicate more regularly in a manner which allows for African perspectives to be fully reflected in United Nations Security Council decisions on African issues, and to pursue earnestly all modalities for information sharing, including through joint field visits.
Today, St. Vincent and the Grenadines recorded 2 new cases of COVID-19. The Ministry of Health said in a release that one case is a returning national who arrived with a negative PCR test result from England on Saturday, November 28th, tested negative on entry screening, and on day 5 tested positive for SARS-CoV-2, the virus which causes COVID-19. The second case is an American national who arrived from the USA also on Saturday, November 28th. That person also arrived with a negative PCR result, tested negative on entry screening, and tested positive while in quarantine on day 5. Both adults were in mandatory quarantine and will be isolated until cleared by 2 negative tests. The ministry said that contact tracing and testing has also commenced. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has now recorded a total of 87 COVID-19 cases, 80 of which have recovered, with 7 still active, all arriving from countries categorized as high risk. The ministry pointed out that while St. Vincent and the Grenadines is currently classified as low risk for the transmission of COVID-19, some close neighbors such as Trinidad and Tobago, St. Lucia, and Martinique are classified as high risk, and travelers from these countries have a higher risk of being infected with the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. The Ministry of Health is further advising all residents of SVG, and especially those living in the Southern Grenadines, North Windward and North Leeward, particularly communities of Union Island, Fancy, and Chateaubelair, to be especially careful. Residents of these communities are advised to avoid any contact with anyone who has traveled from these high-risk countries who have not been screened by SVG Port Health teams. If anyone is aware of unscreened travelers from these high-risk countries, or who have themselves been in contact with such persons, or who themselves have traveled to these high-risk neighboring countries to alert their district medical team. The public is reminded that most persons with COVID-19 do not have symptoms, but can still infect persons with whom they come into contact. A 10-year-old child has been sharing her experience living with diabetes. Alyssa Young, who has type 1 diabetes, said that living with the disease is very challenging, especially having to take insulin every day. The young girl shared her story on the Facebook page of the Ministry of Health, which just wrapped up activities to mark Diabetes Awareness Month in November.
Because when I take my insulin, it stores up my legs because I take it only on my legs and my arms sometimes. And also that I can't eat certain sweets because they're too sweet for me. I take up to 5 units of insulin, and I sometimes have to change it to different units because it depends on how much my sugar is.
Alyssa said that she is usually able to tell when her glucose level is high or low, and even without using a machine. However, a patch has been inserted into her arm, so she will be able to do the test with her Freestyle Libre machine.
My sugar is high or low because with my legs, when it's low, my legs feel shaky and I can't move. And when it's high, I'm very hyper, very energetic. The sensor on my hand, it has 2 parts. This where I just push it inside my hand, and the part where it tells me how much my sugar is. Yes, I was very scared. I even hid in my mommy's bedroom. But my mommy and daddy convinced me it would be better than pricking myself every minute. My friend Janaya, she has been very supportive and she always protects me.
Alyssa's mother, Simone Young, said her daughter was diagnosed with diabetes when she was only 1 year old, and it was very difficult for her and her husband. She explained that neither she nor her husband are diabetic. However, she believes that it came through the family bloodline.
In the diabetes section. When I also was diagnosed with diabetes, my husband and I did a lot of research. Myself and my husband, we do not have diabetes, but research, it have to come from family history. But also, we also found out that it can be a virus that causes an infection to her cells in her pancreas, and that also can cause her to have type 1 diabetes. It can be probably when she gets her vaccine, probably her body couldn't respond properly to that virus, and that can cause the cells in the pancreas to die.
Young said it is very expensive caring for a child with diabetes, but the family does its best to ensure that Alyssa is healthy. Attorney and author Juanita Headley, who has been sharing information on sexual abuse in SVG since August this year, said she's making headway with this sensitive topic. Headley, who lives in the UK, was sexually abused at age 4 and has traveled to SVG to raise awareness on the issue. She said that parents and children have been adequately informed, and based on the feedback she has been getting, her outreach has been making an impact in the lives of children and parents here.
When I do provide this information, that I've heard back feedback from the individuals in the room who are now doing things a little differently. So that means with regards to parenting, we have parents who no longer will be getting undressed, that's the mother, in front of their son or daughter. will no longer be bathing the son and daughter at the same time. In other words, parents are becoming more cautious about the things they do because they understand that children who are exposed to such things become desensitized. And so if a child is used to their mother being nude, when that child goes to another family member, let's say a female, and that female sexually abuses them, the child is used to the nudity of an adult, and so it's something that is comfortable for them. The abuse obviously is something new and foreign, but when a child is groomed, that child often does not speak out about the abuse. And so the first thing is for parents to know how best to respond to disclosures of abuse. But beyond that, it's about being proactive. If a parent can actually take certain steps to prevent a child becoming susceptible to abuse, there is no need to be reactive when the child discloses that.
Headley, who is the author of the book Can You Keep a Secret?, said there has also been a positive outcome from the sessions intended to empower and inform persons to be confidants.
Can you keep a secret? And she was in primary school and asked me a lot of questions in Miro, in fact. And the questions she asked me, I found the nature of what she was asking. It seemed as though she was speaking from experience. And I feel it's important for people to understand that everything a person does, everything a person says stems from somewhere. And the child was asking me about grooming and asking a lot of questions, and that immediately set my antenna on high alert. At the end of my presentation, as she left to go home from school, she spoke to one of the teachers and asked the teacher the question, can you keep a secret? Now, the teacher had heard my message and so responded yes to the student, and the 10-year-old disclosed that there is a man in Miro who offers her $100 EC to have sex with her. And now the young girl obviously has not done that, but she didn't know what to do or how to respond if the guy asked her again. The fact of the matter is that the teacher was educated as to how to respond to the question, can you keep a secret? And the student had the confidence and courage to talk about it because she realized something wasn't right.
Headley said that while she may have made an impact, there is still a need for more regular educational talks in homes and in the public.
Information is out there, but there is still a lot of abuse, incest, rape, and trafficking that is going on here. Because even I met a lady in Union Island who doesn't understand that human trafficking is not kidnapping, it is not smuggling, it is not immigration, logistics. But I've been here since August 20, and I'm available and willing to spread my message so that lives can be transformed. If I can go from country to country to country, bringing this message, and everyone knows about it, we're going to have less abuse, less incest, less trafficking, because we are all on the alert. It is not about creating paranoia, but knowledge is power. And so for me, rather than just raise awareness, I've come here to educate and empower people.
Headley had also held sessions with the police, at schools, with caregivers and social workers. There are 18 females currently serving in the SVG Coast Guard service, with Evelyn Stowe being the first female to join in 1986. Today, the 18 females have various ranks, including leading seaman, able-bodied seaman, and petty officer. Sasha Martin, who holds the rank of leading seaman, said that women have been climbing the ladder, and conferment of the highest rank was done last year.
After 20 years, after the first female joined the Coast Guard, we had our first female promotions, and that was of Petty Officer Celia Charles and leading seaman Lisa Brown. Those were the first females to be promoted in the Coast Guard. Presently, the highest rank for a female in the Coast Guard presently is Chief Petty Officer, which was attained this year by Petty Officer Celia Charles. She's now a Chief Petty Officer.
Martin and her colleague Amber Lee Caesar both work on the Captain Hugh Mulzac. She said they face many challenges as females, but have the support of their male colleagues.
As a younger person, I was a part of the summer program, the Youth Development Summer Program. I was exposed to life at sea, different activities that the Coast Guard usually do, and I was eager to join, and I joined the Coast Guard. We also have females working on board, Captain Mulzac, myself, and Ellis Martin there. Just like any other job, females do encounter difficulties, but with competent and caring men that work with us, they encourage us on a day-to-day basis to do our best.
There are a number of things that I've been exposed to that I would not normally be exposed to as just a public servant working. You get a lot of opportunities to show your leadership roles. And we're females, and in terms of strength, we're not as strong as men. So we would have to work harder. We will have to push harder because we don't have the strength. But as was said before, we have competent and caring males who are working with us, who help us to get through each day-to-day activities.
The two women are encouraging young girls to challenge themselves and enter the Coast Guard, as there are many opportunities on which to capitalize, and they can aim at achieving the highest ranks.
To join the Coast Guard, I would like to encourage you guys not to be afraid. If you have a dream, go for it, and don't be fearful. Don't be fearful of men. Don't be fearful of a male-dominated environment. You go out there, you do your best, and you achieve your goals.
I would encourage more females to join the Coast Guard because, as we have stated before, we are 18 strong, and I would like us to be much stronger. And we are looking forward to the day when a female officer can be attain a higher rank than a chief petty officer. We can stand with the male officers, gazetted officers at the Coast Guard base, and have our first female gazetted officer at the Coast Guard base. So I want the females to strive to lift Coast Guard higher, female-wise.
This week, the Coast Guard observed 40 years of operation. 20 Vincentians were among a total of 76 participants who were engaged in a 2-day virtual workshop having to do with the improved access to justice in the Caribbean Impact Justice Project, which is funded by the Government of Canada. The November 18th and 19th workshop, held under the theme Sound Policy for Better Law, engaged permanent secretaries and other senior public officials from Trinidad and Tobago and SVG, who prepare drafting instructions and policy papers to strengthen their capacity in this area. Topics covered included a review of policy formulation, contents and information to be included in drafting instructions, instructions for drafting, codes of practice, procedural rules and guidelines, as well as gender and environmentally friendly policy guidelines and checklists. Regional Project Director of the Impact Justice Project, Professor Velma Newton, who chaired the event, opened the proceedings with a brief overview of the Impact Justice Project and also provided some background to the workshop, which she said received overwhelming support from attorneys general and chief parliamentary councils during a planning meeting in 2014 when the project was when the project was developing its programming. This was the fourth such workshop hosted by the Impact Justice Project for CARICOM member states. The first 3 were hosted in Belize in April 2018, St. Lucia in July 2019, and Barbados in October 2020. The project will host a similar session for senior public officers in Guyana in the coming months. The Roads, Buildings and General Services Authority, BRAGZA, has completed construction of 907 feet of concrete road in Riverdale, Pembroke in South Leeward. The first phase also saw the construction of 819 feet of slipper drains and 113 feet of box drains. BRAGZA said work on the second phase of the project will take place next year, when 1,162 feet of road will be done. The overall cost of the project is $550,000 EC dollars. Former teachers Addison Bash Thomas and Kenroy Johnson have received their gratuities 2 years after a high court ruled in their favor. The two teachers resigned from their jobs and unsuccessfully contested the 2010 general elections as candidates for the New Democratic Party. They were not reinstated following the elections, and the SVG Teachers Union took the matter to court. Today, President of the union, Oswald Robinson, said it was good news for the two former teachers, deeming the compliance as socio-economic justice.
And I want to congratulate them. I want to thank our legal counsel, Juma Thomas Chambers, Mr. Thomas himself, Sister Zita Barnwell, and also Ruggles Ferguson, who was one of our lawyers that came all the way from Grenada in adjudicating that case. And we are very thankful for their efforts, the hard work that they have put in. And now that the Teachers Union has achieved another victory in fulfillment of our objectives for socio-economic justice for our members.
The other teacher, who also ran on the NDP ticket in 2010 and has not yet received his gratuity, will reach retirement age next year. Robinson said that there is still outstanding money to be paid to the teachers, and he hopes that it will be done.
We are awaiting their pension that would kick in, and also there are some outstanding monies when they were not more or less reinstated. Their outstanding monies in terms of their salary for those years that they were made redundant. So we hope that the state would look into that and that they would really do the right thing to provide these brothers with their benefits.
The Teachers Union president said that the government also owes the union more than $50,000 in legal fees, and he's looking forward to that. To also be paid.
Also, our legal fees, which the state owes, $53,000. We're hoping that the state will be able to fulfill that obligation as prescribed by the court, the appeal court. There are still outstanding matters to be dealt with, and a lot of them have financial implications. We look forward that our end-of-year allowance would be intact for this December, because as you know, teachers look forward to that. Other public sector workers receive their allowances at the end of each month. Teachers would receive theirs at the end of the year. That's the arrangement we have with the state.
The Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force said there has been an increase in offences involving stealing and a decrease in wounding during the 2-week period, November 19th to December 2nd. Providing an update on the Police Care, Serve and Protect program last night, Sergeant Cornelius Ross said that there were 70 reports made to the police during that period.
Reports compared to that period is 10.4% decrease observed for the period, as opposed to 19 to 4.2% for the current period, November 26 to December 2nd. The trend in offences again remained constant for the period assessed. Stealing type offences is responsible for 34 or 47% of the reports over the period, November 19th to the 25th, and 42 or 59% for this current period, November 26th to December 2nd. Wounding type offences, on the other hand, was responsible for 28 or 38% for the period November 19th to the 25th, and 27% or 19 of the reports for this current period.
Some of the main reports made were with regards to theft of personal items and predial larceny.
Responsible for the second most reports made for the period were primary disagreements, domestic disputes, robbery, and burglary attempts. Stealing type offences fell slightly for the period November 19th to the 25th. You're seeing a decrease of 10.5%. However, regrettably, for this period, an increase was observed of 23.5%, presenting a major area of concern. Responsible for the majority of reports made for both periods, seeing 47% or 34 of the reports in last week's period, and 59% or 42 of the reports in this current period.
Sergeant Ross continues to encourage persons to avoid traveling in lonely and darkly lit areas and report any missing animals immediately. He also noted that for the 2-week period, there were 93 arrests made by the police force.
Recorded for the period 19th to the 25th of November, which reflected an increase of 47.2%, and 40 for this current period, which suffered a decrease of 24.5%. In last week's assessment, 20 or 37.7% of the arrests were in relation to wounding type offences, while 27.5% or 11 were recorded for this period. So we have seen a significant drop there, a drop of 9. For theft, 32.1% or 17 were reflected for last week's period, while 22.5 or 9 belong to this period.
In more police news, a 41-year-old farmer of Canaan was granted composite bail in the sum of $2,000 with one surety. Jason Miners was called to answer to the charge of assault of a 28-year-old laborer, also of Canaan, by striking him on the back of the head with an unknown object, causing actual bodily harm. Miners also had to answer to the charge of assaulting the said laborer by pointing a gun at him with the intent to commit the offense of wounding. The police said the incidents were committed at Canaan. Miners pleaded not guilty when he appeared at the Serious Offences Court. The matter was adjourned to December 11th and was transferred to the Mariaquaw Magistrates Court.